Hello, everybody. Thank you today for joining us today on Robbie South Teaches How Money Works, the podcast where we teach you how money works so that you can stop being a sucker. Today, we have a very special guest on our program. She's a local person that is wonderful to work with, all kinds of resources, which is what we want people to understand and understand that they're out there. Situations can be tough, but we want you to get the resources and the help you need to get out of these situations. So today we have Miss Lynn on our podcast. Miss Lynn, if you would just give us a little bit of background about you, if you don't mind, and kind of we'll go from there.
All right. My name is Lynn Russo. I'm the director of Hospitality House for Women. Hospitality House for Women is the local domestic violence shelter and service provider. We have been open since October of 1978. I obviously wasn't there way back then, but I have been with the agency. I started my first time in this seat. It was 2000, and I was the director of Hospitality House from 2000 to 2008. I relocated to North Carolina and ran a program similar up there for 8 years. And then I moved back, and I've been back with Hospitality House since 2019. So this is my third year anniversary back with the agency this month, actually. So I've worked pretty much only with victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and child abuse since I graduated from college back in 1995. So this is what I've done with my entire career. So I am very familiar with intimate partner violence and how financial abuse and financial just realities can make it really difficult for people to get out of a bad relationship and a dangerous relationship. That's really what we focus on, is making sure that people know that there are ways to get access safety. And I actually was on a radio show this morning, and we were talking about socioeconomic status and how that differs. And in some ways, the clients that it's hardest to advocate for and to help navigate the systems that they need to navigate to get to safety, our more affluent clients have a harder time. In 99% of the situation, the abusive partner, not always the male, sometimes it's the female, or sometimes it's the same-sex couple, but the abusive person usually has control of the purse strings in that relationship. And if you have children together, the threat, "I'll take your children from you," is a real threat. We have abusers that contact every attorney in Rome to make sure that they've conflicted out so their partner can't access representation. There's a whole, because the social stigma, the more well-known the person is in the community, the harder sometimes it is to leave. Our clients that come in shelter who have less resources actually probably have an easier time starting over than the people that we work with that have means. So most people wouldn't think that, but it can be way harder for someone who has more to lose by leaving the relationship.
Yeah,
the survivors never win. Like in court, it seems like the abuser ends up keeping the majority of the resources. The house gets their way in custody issues because part of the dynamics, the survivor ends up so beaten down that they just are helpless and hopeless and kind of give up. And so it's hard to work with those clients.
And then you bring out some really good points that I hadn't even thought about there. And then that, I mean, I've been in public safety for over 20 years, and being on a fire truck and an ambulance, I see a cycle where we're going out to these same people time and time again. But I had never thought about someone that actually has the means of getting out having a more challenging time than someone who didn't. I mean, but it makes sense with what you just said. I mean, it's intertwining there, and the kids basically be using as a pawn. I can't stand somebody to do that, but you're right, it does happen. And that's really sad. You shouldn't be, in my opinion, you shouldn't be using kids in that sense. They leave the kids out of it, in my opinion, and the parents and adults work that out among themselves between the attorneys or whoever, because it's just, they need to live their childhood and grow up and be healthy and productive. And that just drives me crazy when people do that.
I started my career doing child welfare investigations, and that was my love your kids more than you hate each other. Don't call defects on each other for no reason, and don't make the kid like having to get interviewed by an investigator is stressful for the kid. Yeah, like put the kids first, but unfortunately, that doesn't always happen.
You're right. So, and one of the things that I want to talk about is I know when people are involved in the relationships and they're, in front of it, sometimes they don't always see the warning signs that are actually going on because, some people think, well, this individual is not beating me, they're not hitting me, so I'm not being abused. But there are other forms of abuse, such as mentally, verbally, things like that. What are some of the red flags that people should be looking for to recognize that this is a bad situation and we need to be trying to make things better?
I'm going to plug our Facebook and Instagram real quick because our outreach coordinator does a great job highlighting what a healthy relationship looks like and what an unhealthy relationship looks like. So it's Hospitality House for Women on Facebook. You can find our page, follow us. Some of the red flags that I always look for or talk about a lot of times, especially in our younger when we're dealing with teens and young adults, they see jealousy and possessiveness as a sign of love. If someone's texting you 27 times an hour wanting to know where you are, that is not love, that is abuse. And so those kind of thing, not sharing passwords with someone demanding to have your email password or your social media passwords, someone demanding that they have access to your cell phone, like your security code. Those are healthy boundaries is something we talk a lot with our young people about. And even in adult relationships, those things happen, not having to have your location services on your cell phone so you can be tracked at all times. Things like that are warning signs. Someone being jealous of your friendships, someone not wanting you to spend time with your family, someone who tries to encourage you not to work because you're a lot easier to control if you don't have access to resources. So that, yeah, there's, like I said, I'm going to plug our Facebook page. Claudia does an amazing job with that content, the educational content. October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. That's what we're leading into. And so we'll be doing a lot of healthy relationship curriculum this month. We have to, but instead of talking about statistics and how many people are murdered and all of those things are important, we really have tried to shift focus and try to prevent people from needing us to begin with.
Yes.
And so getting the education out in the community, this is not normal, this is not healthy, and you deserve better. And if you are in that relationship, knowing that you don't have to come into shelter to access services. You can just call us. There's counseling available, there's group counseling, individual counseling, there's some financial assistance that you might be eligible for. We can help with a number of things, and sometimes just that trauma bond that an abuser has with the victim is very complicated and confusing for someone who's not dealt with this issue. So just having someone to talk to that doesn't think you're crazy is sometimes the biggest service that we do. Just as someone who understands the cycle and the fact that, just because this person's behavior is atrocious doesn't mean there isn't something that in there that you love about them and you're trying to a lot of our survivors think they're the only one that can save the person, that I'm the only one. If I leave him, he's going to kill himself, or if I leave him, he won't have anybody. And that there's this guilt about getting away from the relationship that most normal civilians don't understand.
Right. And we all have to take care of ourselves and make sure our mental health is important, make sure we're taken care of because the other person can be very controlling and manipulative and it takes a toll on you. And I've seen that over the years to where, people twist things to control, like you said, tracking their every movement, wanting to know, and it's so easy to do that nowadays. And from what I've seen, and I think you kind of touched on this, it starts out as, oh, I love you. I want to make sure you're not hurt. And I care about you. This is for your safety. So they build that up, but then it becomes and it may start out that way, but then I think it goes beyond that. That's how they turn it to where it's a control thing. And it's not only about all of that, but then financing. If you don't have the open conversations in your relationship about where's the money going, what is it being spent on, one person is getting the majority of the money while the other person's getting, $100 a week for an allowance to get what they need to get. Those types of things are really important as well, and it's signs. So, and I understand that people can't necessarily talk to their spouse when they're in these abusive situations about better. So, if they're stuck at home and all they have is a phone, and maybe it's a prepaid phone, they don't have a whole lot of time, minutes on it or whatever, but they have family that's letting them know, hey, I'm concerned about you. Something doesn't seem right. Something's up, and they should listen to those things, because that can be another cue to, hey, something is up. I'm not seeing it, but they're saying it from an outside view. So what are some of the tips that you can give us to help people maybe start a conversation without getting themselves deeper in the abusive situation with the other person?
Oh, about talking to their partner about financial
Well,
issues?
that, or if they want to get out of the situation, because you need conversations. So if like, say a family member comes in and says, I see something wrong with you, well, we need that conversation to go forward, but the abusive spouse probably doesn't need to be a part of that, because I feel like it would escalate the problem even worse. So
yeah, I wouldn't recommend a survivor trying to negotiate finances with their abuser, because that's going to end in violence or further emotional abuse, at least.
exactly.
As well, what I typically talk to people about when they're concerned about a friend or a family member and they think they may be in an abusive situation is to make sure you don't shut that door, because that's a tool the abuser uses. You get people, and it's understandable, they get tired of watching the person go back into this relationship over and over again, and they're like, I'm done with this. I can't do it anymore. I can't watch you continue to do this to yourself. And you leave, and then this survivor's got nowhere to turn. The other thing that it's important not to do is just vilify the abusive partner. There is something lovable about that person that the survivor fell in love with initially. And if you criticize and just you go off about how awful this person is, you're just going to push the survivor closer to him or her. So just try to be as non-judgmental. One of the things that I always say is all the relationships can be difficult, but they should never be as dangerous. Um, that's not super judgmental against the other person. I'm just concerned for your safety. I'm not saying he's a bad person or he needs help or anything like that. We just want to make sure you're okay and really just focus on the victim or survivor. And again, just that unconditional support. I know you're not ready to leave yet. When you are, please don't be afraid to pick up the phone. The other thing I like to remind family members and friends, don't be the same. If it's an abusive situation that could be dangerous, don't take that survivor into your home, because if he knows where you live or she knows where you live, you could end up we read the names of the people who have passed away over the last year every October at a candlelight vigil, and a lot of those names are family members that were killed along with the victim because they happen to be trying to shelter someone in a dangerous situation. There are places like you're better off putting somebody in a hotel for a couple nights while they access a temporary protective order, which is something we help people do. There's an emergency shelter. We have a 27-bed shelter here in Rome that is only for survivors and their kids. If we do come across a male victim, we put them in a hotel until we can find them someplace safe to be. But there are people in places that can help somebody stay safe. You shouldn't bring them to your house. We do a lot of prevention work out at Barry, and the students, like, if you have a friend that's in a bad situation, don't bring them to your dorm room. Like, get the RA, let them help step in, and they'll contact us. It can be unsafe not only for the survivor but for the other person that's trying to help them.
And that's something I hadn't thought about. Is family usually is encouraging to want to help, but I hadn't thought about the victim, by going to a family member's house, that then the predator would go over there and harm them. Very good point there. I mean, because people, when they get in that race, they don't always think clear. They don't care. They're just in reactive mode, and I'm glad you brought that up. And how many of your people that you deal with and see and talk to and all of that, do they have any kind of knowledge about how in general finances work, or do they just kind of, go along with what they've been taught over the years, or they have a more in-depth knowledge?
It depends. Every survivor is unique. Some come in and they've been in a long-term relationship and completely financial dependent, have never written a check or paid a bill online. These days, that's much more common than writing a check. But and then others have been the sole. A lot of times, the survivor is the one that's the main bread earner, and the abusive party may have substance abuse and mental health issues, and they're not working. So it depends. Everybody's different. I think everyone they should teach basic finance skills in high school, and they don't in middle school. They're starting in middle school, but we don't teach those things. We teach trigonometry that you probably won't use again.
Exactly. And knowing basic finance is very important, other than just, being able to write a check and how to balance a checkbook, but knowing simple things like, well, we teach the rule of 72, the compound interest versus simple interest. Those are all some very important tips that is, I don't remember getting taught in school. And it's very sad that they're not teaching those things, because people get in bad situations such as this and they can't get out of it.
Right.
And financing is money's always an issue,
Mhm.
whether it's
Yeah, it's wild.
whatever.
It's one of the main reasons why there's a whole lot of emotional reasons why people have a hard time leaving their partner, but finance is a big piece. Child custody and finances are both big pieces, and
Right.
child custody is tied in with finances, because if you're afraid to go to court for custody, you have to be able to have the means to have an attorney represent you, and a lot of our clients don't have that luxury. So.
Attorneys are not cheap at all. So with you seeing a wide range, some being very good with money, others being, not having dealt much with it, do you think having a financial education is helpful, hurtful, or does it really make any difference?
I mean, I think everybody could use a finance 101. Anybody that's not in that field. It just depends on where the person's at, and maybe they're getting a job for the first time in 15 years and they have absolutely no idea how to manage their money. And yes, of course, and we do a little bit of that, but that's not our specialty. There's some Allstate did a curriculum for specifically for survivors around finances. And we'll use pieces of that occasionally when someone, and then our advocates often help as residents are getting ready to move out on their own. They'll do a budget with them to help them kind of. Recently with the child tax credit money that came, we had clients that got a chunk of money that they'd never in amounts that they had never had access to before, and trying to work with people and be like, I know that car looks great, but you need to have a roof over your head.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's
Go ahead.
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No, it's just working with people about, being smart with the resources that they do have access to.
Right. And it's easy to, I've got all this money, I need to go spend it on, ABC items. And you kind of lose sight of the big pictures at times. And so you need help coming back in and looking at, okay, this is my immediate needs and what we've got to take care of. So
Right.
that's a great thing that I'm glad y'all do.
Yeah.
It is so important. And, it's domestic violence is under publicized, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And, you know, I feel like we need to bring that more to the forefront and have the conversation. I know it can be difficult and I know it's challenging, but without conversations and without awareness, I don't see the problem getting any better or changing at all. So
No.
I encourage people, and maybe you can give a take on this, on talking to people,
Mhm.
when the other person is at work or whatever, doing whatever you can to carry on a conversation about what's going on in your life, getting advice from friends, family, whatever the case, maybe, reaching out to y'all, because it's so important. We don't need anyone to be in that type of situation. And
Right.
it's very difficult. And we appreciate everything that y'all do in the community. Uh,
Yeah, if it was up to me, there'd be prevention programming starting in preschool. And that's not a romantic relationship necessarily, but friendships, anything, any kind of relationship, like what the basic healthy boundaries look like. I think it would go a long way to improving the issue. It's not, education is not going to solve everything. In a lot of cases, intimate partner violence is a generational, that people, survivor and abuser, learn those patterns from family. Not always, but in a lot of cases, that is in breaking that generational cycle. And we talk a lot to our survivors about that. Like, you can be the person that changes it for your kids and your kids. And so this isn't going to perpetuate generation to generation. And yeah, if we had more money, we would be able to do more outreach in the community. It's frustrating for me. I've been here for on and off for over 20 years. And when I talked to a survivor, said, I wish I knew you were there 2 years ago. And that's frustrating, especially with an agency that's been around for more than 40 years, and some people still don't know we're here. And part of that is the secrecy of the location of the shelter, right? We can't have tours for the public. So that's a challenge for us. We want to be out there and visible in the community, but we also have to be careful to be protective of the clients that we're working with.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there's ways that, like you have your social media websites to be able to get the word out that way. I think that's a great idea. Uh, are there any other ways other than your social media platforms that people might be able to reach out to you to get a hold of you if they need help or would just like more information?
Yeah, there's a 24-hour crisis line. We have staff here at the shelter 24/7. It's 706-235-HOPE, 4673. So it's 235-HOPE. And that number gets answered Christmas Day, Christmas night, whenever there's somebody always here to talk to. And it doesn't mean you have to leave. It's just, you just want somebody to talk to. Again, if you're in the middle of that cycle, it can make you feel like you're insane. And having someone who understands what that's like is really important for a lot of people. So yeah, you can reach out to us there. If you want to support the agency, we have a thrift store. So if you have stuff to donate, clothes, furniture, household items, any of that stuff, we accept donations. It's over next to Ace Hardware, where Ace Hardware just opened. And we accept donations Tuesday through Saturday starting at 10 a.m. You can also shop our thrift store. That would be great. We have a couple of events coming up for October on the 20th at 6 p.m. in Rotary Plaza. We're going to have the candlelight vigil I spoke of earlier. We have 3 survivors that we've worked with over the last year that are brave enough to sell their story. We've had 2 domestic violence homicides here this year. That's the first one since I've been back in Rome. And we had to, and in both cases, the abusive party was from out of town, and the mom lived here with left small kids as orphans. And so we've been working with maternal grandmothers to try to provide support to those kids. And then on the 21st, so the vigil is a very respectful, somber kind of just awareness event. The Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event is more of it's to get the word out that there are services and help available, but it's also just a celebration of the survivors that have gotten out. And so a lot of our local law enforcement and firemen put on some amazing pink heels and walk down Broad Street. So that is the 21st, Friday, and registration starts at 11. We have a couple of contests. We have a hairiest leg contest and a hottest leg contest. And those start about 11:30, and then the walk starts at noon. And then on the 24th, which is a Monday, we will be at 6 o'clock at the Wilder Center at First United UMC. It's an annual public meeting where the staff and board are just kind of present this is where we are as an agency, this is what we're doing. They get a chance to meet the staff and get a chance to meet the board and interact. So there's snacks and drinks, and it's just a public forum about the agency. So all 3 of those things are happening this month. We would encourage people to come out. The walk is a lot of fun. It really is. It's a high energy. There's music. People really, really enjoy the walk. We usually get 300 to 400 people out every year, so it's a fun event.
Sounds like you've got some great things coming up. Excuse me. And this podcast does go out to a lot of different areas. And let's say somebody that's within the Georgia region or maybe even east Alabama. can they reach out to you and you help them find resources in their area to move forward with that?
Yes. Also, they could reach out to us at 706-235-HOPE, or the Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence. It's gcadv.org. It's got a list of every shelter in the state, so you could find the shelter that's closest to you. And whichever shelter covers your county can help you with a protective order. They can help you access shelter. They can help you with counseling services. All the services that we provide, all of the 43 programs are mandated to provide. So not every county has their own shelter. In South Georgia, especially, they'll have one shelter covering 10 counties sometimes, which makes their work a lot more. We're lucky to have, we're just Floyd County up here. North Georgia tends to be covered better than South Georgia because it's more rural.
All right, well, that's some great information. We're going to getting to the end of today's show. I want to thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close out?
I don't think so. Like, I would encourage people to come out to one or all of those events. And like I said, and I said shop at thrift store, but I didn't mention that we have the quirkiest, coolest thrift store in Rome. It really is. If you will never have adult, you'll always find something interesting in there. So we're open from 10 to 6 on Tuesday through Friday, and then 10 to 5 on Saturdays. So I encourage you to pop in. It's a fun experience.
Absolutely. And I encourage everybody to go out, take part in these events. It's a great opportunity to help support them, get to know them. You know, this is something that we all coming together can help bring awareness to help, you know, bring this to light so that more people can get out of the bad situations. If you'd like more information on this, follow me on Facebook. Robbie South teaches how money works. Also, follow my website, robbiesouth.com. That's ROBBIESOUTH.com. All month, we're going to be talking about this. Got some great speakers. Look forward to hearing you next time. Y'all have a wonderful day.